Hello, my name is Sean and I'm here today to confess that I have an addiction. I have an addiction to cars, but not just any cars. I was never one of the lucky ones who got to dream about Lamborghinis and Corvettes and Vipers. You see, I'm a crazy person. I like obscurity, I like the underdog. I'm an absolute sucker for useless convenience features and stuff that's really fast that flies directly under the radar. Cars that used to break necks but now have been forgotten about that can be bought at 10% of the car's original value. But Sean, if these cars are so great, why are they so cheap, you ask? Well, that's a great question, made-up audience guy. Cars that depreciate harder than a brand new iPhone come with all kinds of unfathomable electrical issues. They're often overly complicated to work on and need special tooling and special computers for diagnostics and even repairs, causing a fear of ownership, thus plummeting that resale value. No sane, self-respecting person should ever put themselves into the endless pit of doom that is depreciated luxury sports car ownership. So why did I go and buy the cheapest Mercedes Benz E55 AMG I could find with no regard for self-preservation? Well, stick around guys and strap up them lap belts because this one's gonna get bumpy. But take a step back in time for a moment. Close your eyes. Relax a little bit and let your mind wander to a time before you could get wheels, tires, and suspension at fitmentindustries.com. To the year 2002, back when the Dodge Viper changed the world with a 450 horsepower, 8-friggin-liter V10, passing through the quarter mile in the low 12-second range. A time when the Corvette Z06 dominated the sports car segment with a 400 horsepower V8, running up on supercars with also mid 12-second quarter mile times. The Ferrari 360 was a pinnacle supercar of the early 2000s with a screaming 400 horsepower V8 also running in that 12-second quarter mile range. All legendary automobiles that will go down in history as the greats that can hold their own with most sports cars being produced even to this day. And then in late 2002, Mercedes-Benz took a version of their SLR McLaren supercharged 5.4-liter V8 and they stuffed it deep into their new for the 2003 model year mid-size E-Class sedan. While this giant engine did bring the weight up to over 2 tons, the 470 horsepower, 516 foot-pounds of torque concoction was somehow helping this E-Class defy the laws of physics and run within a half second in the quarter mile of those cars mentioned above, which is a pretty crazy feat in itself for any car, let alone one with 4 doors that can comfortably hold 4 adults, massage your tushy, ventilate air into your sweaty back, and pack more tech into the interior than you will ever need. As a matter of fact, when this car came out in 2002 for the 2003 model year, it was the fastest and the quickest sedan in the whole wide world, which starting at $80,000 and being optioned into low 6 figures, I can hope it would be. But as time went on, the flaws and the weaknesses start to expose themselves. These cars became notorious for air suspension failure, electrical issues that will leave you stranded with a dead battery, an engine cooling system that's tied into the transmission cooling system, and then the little seal breaks and they mix, and I don't know if you know anything about transmissions or not, but you don't want glycol mixing with your transmission fluid. The gas tanks would leak and cause fumes to enter the cabin. The electronic braking system had a finite amount of braking actuations allowed before you had to replace them. And a good chunk of these actually experienced premature failure, which is pretty scary. But maybe even scarier than that is the labor cost at the Mercedes-Benz dealership. It's absolutely insane. But I will let you in on a little secret. These seemingly catastrophic issues, most of them were actually given an extended warranty, and the problems were mostly all solved in the beginning years of the car's life when you still had to be pretty wealthy to own one of these cars. So finding one with a really well documented, seemingly no expenses spared service history isn't exactly hard to find. But that still didn't stop these cars from depreciating like any other Mercedes-Benz. And that's where I swoop in. But first, a little backstory. When I was 14 years old, YouTube had just hit the scene, and when all the car nerds hit the platform, or maybe some of you guys even remember StreetFire.net. In fact, if you guys do remember StreetFire.net, go leave a comment down below. I want to know how many OGs are watching these videos. Anyway, some of the craziest cars on YouTube and StreetFire.net doing all the hood rat shit in street racing was the Terminator Cobra. I already had this weird obsession for Mustangs as a whole, especially that new Edge generation, and then the Cobras came in and absolutely crushed the competition. And with a factory supercharger, they were really easy to modify and make absolutely magnificent sounds. Just listen to this one. And then while I was detailing cars at a Ford dealership, I was presented the opportunity to buy a $1,500 Mercedes Benz sight unseen. The story was that a couple came in looking to buy a new Ford and they wanted to trade in their old Mercedes, and the dealership basically told them to f off. They didn't even want the damn thing. So the salesman, knowing that I like weird came and told me about it. He didn't even know what it was or what condition it was in, and I had to make a decision on the spot whether I wanted this random Mercedes or not. So, being the rational human being that I am, I shook the man's hand and forked over some cash. The next day I was presented the new, to me, 1997 Mercedes S500. I knew nothing about Mercedes at the time, but after experiencing that luscious S-Class ride quality, superb material usage and build quality, 18-way power seats, and the laughably awesome useless features of the car, it was absolutely game over. Introducing people to my heated and power reclining rear seats, outdated corded car phone, dual pane windows that for some reason everybody thought were bulletproof, the soft closing doors, and adjustable suspension created so many conversations. And then I found the window sticker in the glove box showing a $97,000 MSRP for my $1,500 shit box. At that exact moment in time, I fell in love with oversized luxury cars. And I was nothing but smiles and spine comfort when I drove that car. Now I did have to do some suspension work and get inside the engine and do some of the upper timing chain guides and stuff like that. But what I found was that they made so many of these cars and they recycled a lot of their engine and parts into a bunch of other models that parts were really as affordable as any domestic car. And the stuff that wasn't affordable for Mercedes usually led to aftermarket budget-friendly solutions with tons of DIY information out there. But I still had this overwhelming urge to own a Cobra, to own a boosted V8, to drive a car that runs 12s out of the box with the goal of getting into the 11s. Now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but the last couple of years have been absolutely bonkers for Cobra values. Needless to say, I don't entirely feel comfortable forking over 25 grand for an 18-year-old Mustang with 100,000 miles with a NADA value of $6,000. Enter the year 2018. I'm just minding my own business, cruising down the Highway 41 in my true blue metallic 2001 Mustang GT that's, for lack of a better term, loud as f. This dated looking Mercedes sedan rolls up on me and matches my speed, gives me the fucking stink eye and a 3 honks. So me being the law-abiding pinnacle example of self-control, we both took off on that 3rd honk. Or rather, they took off like I wasn't moving at all in a car that I still thought was fairly quick enough. I literally took the next exit and I Googled the letters that I saw on the trunk. The letter E, 2 5s, and AMG. And what I discovered then and there changed my life forever. Apparently you can just go buy the perfect combination of car ever built. The E55 AMG ended up being the perfect combination of the SVT Cobra's demonic ease of making power with the interior and build quality of Mercedes Benz, and with the charm and features of that S-Class. I immediately posted my Mustang for sale, and on July 4th of 2018, I purchased one of my favorite vehicles that I've ever owned. A pewter silver metallic 2003 Mercedes Benz E55 AMG, and with 130,000 miles for less than 10 grand. Sure, it needed a little bit of work, but I went home with a car that had heated, vented, massaging, active high bolster seats, height and damping adjustable air suspension, a big blown V8 that made almost 500 horsepower, a heated and cooled center console, and a goddamn Mercedes branded Nokia flip phone. It also had 4-zone climate control, 8 piston, 8 motherfucking piston Brembo brakes, an electronic closing trunk, in a luxury sedan that cops literally give zero about. It does infinite burnouts and beats up on muscle cars, all for the same money as a heavily used 350Z or bug-eyed WRX. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, a car like this has to be problematic and a huge pain in the ass to work on, right? I mean, it's a Mercedes Benz. Well, no, that's not really the case at all. I did have one case where I had the battery start draining on me, which was as easy as using a multimeter on the battery and monitoring draw while I unplugged some fuses to find out that the seat control module was not shutting off and would drain my battery. And then there was this one time that the crank pulley separated and it actually exploded, which probably would have left me stranded, but I was just a few blocks from home, so it's all good. As far as working on the car goes, if I, of all people, can get long tube headers up in there and triple pin the new modular crank pulley, make my own lines for the dual fuel pump setup, and run dual water to air heat exchangers in my driveway with basic hand tools, I think that speaks volumes for itself. I will say though, I do go through a lot of tires. And honestly, one of my biggest fears going into this was, man, I wonder how hard it's gonna be to find wheels and tires for this thing. Luckily for me, there was already 8 of these damn things on the gallery, which made it super easy to find the exact look that I wanted, and voila, here we are with my 20x10 plus 38, 20x9 plus 35 Vorsteiner Flowform wheels. And those bad boys are wrapped in two 55/35 Nitto and T555 G2s, and then you got a 285/30 out back. And I gotta say, it's the perfect kind of OEM plus look. It looks kind of stock, which is exactly what I was going for. Anyway, what I'm really getting at here is that there are hundreds of cars out there that offer a ton of value for the money that don't end up on the cool kids list that everybody knows about. Cars that will perform at leagues above their price bracket. Cars that are gonna spoil and pamper you as you drive them and still have a massive support for aftermarket parts. I bought my E55 AMG because it was the fastest car that I could buy for under $10,000. And you don't see a ton of them around. When was the last time you've seen more than one of these bad boys at the last car meet? It's powerful, it's unique, and has the bonus of it ventilated and massaging to get seats. But maybe the best part is it flies completely under the radar of most people. Cops will not look at you twice in a big tan sedan, even if you're doing something stupid like flying past a cop doing 90 in a 65. But real car enthusiasts are nothing but smiles when they see this thing. It truly is, in my opinion, the best car that you can buy for the money. So what do you guys think? Am I f***ed in the head like Ricky? Or do these cars actually make a ton of sense to own? And let me know what cars you guys think are must-haves for the money that have high value propositions. I need some ideas for my next build, you know what I'm saying. Make sure to slap that thumbs up if you guys learned anything today, and don't forget to subscribe and click that bell so you don't miss any of the crazy builds or the giveaways coming your way very, very soon. And of course, you guys know where to go to take your car to the next level with wheels, tires, and suspension from fitmentindustries.com. I'm Sean, seanb.fi on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.